Welcome to Capture the Reps podcast, the podcast for fitness creatives by fitness creatives. Each episode, we will dive into techniques, strategies, and behind-the-scenes stories to help fast-track your career. Whether you're behind the camera or in front of it, this is the space to grow, create, and connect. Hit it, Sam.
It's an honor to have you on. So I always like to start like our conversations just with a good like backstory as to how you got started in the creative field, like that origin story of like, you know, it can be anything from, I've had people be like, oh yeah, I was taking pictures of like trees and like inanimate objects in my backyard, or like for me, like, my story. So how did you get started, and like, you know, what made you keep going?
Basically, like, so I didn't pick up a camera until I was maybe like 18 in high school, but so I don't have that story of like at 5 years old, like my mom.
You're a young prodigy.
yeah. You know, like at 3 years old, I was taking pictures of. No, I don't have that kind of cool story, but I did grow up into a family of movie buffs. So basically, when other kids would ask their moms, like, hey, can I go play soccer outside? Or, hey, can I go play video games with my friends? For me, it was, hey, mom, can I watch a movie? And yeah, every single night, my mom, like, I was like really annoying her with that because we're a family of like movie lovers, movie buffs, however you want to call it. Like at home, we must have around like 700 to 800 DVDs and Blu-rays.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were called like the Blockbuster of the neighborhood because like all all my mom's friends would actually come and borrow DVDs at our place, and she had to like keep up like with a list and like checklist of like who she rented, who she like lend DVDs to, because like we were like known for that. And even like that's a pretty cool thing though. Like when I was like 3 years old, like I think that's like we all have like a super early memory, like our earliest memory ever. And I think one of my earliest memory was my parents watching a movie in the living room downstairs, and me like being put to bed, of course, like a couple of hours earlier than that, and then me coming out of my bed and sitting on the top like stair of the staircase, like, and like looking down in the living room, like and watching the movie from up the stairs, like hidden.
Yeah.
Because I was like just obsessed with like stories and images and like just, it was my escape, right?
Yeah. Any type of like genre that stood out? Like, was there any type of movies that you really like were drawn to, or that you like?
And then like early on, not really, because like my family, again, were like big cinephiles, movie buffs. And so they showed me a bit of everything, man. They showed me adventure movie, romantic comedies, some movies I was not allowed to watch with my mom, but my cool uncle, my dad's brother, would show me like, he would show me the X-Men and Alien movie and like The Shining and all the scary stuff that my mom was like, you know. So I grew up watching like everything, man, from like black and white, like old movies to Indiana Jones to like, So as a movie buff, I'm pretty open-minded to any kind of genre. But yeah, so it kind of like started like that, the love of like telling stories and images and like that media, I guess. And then when I was in high school, a friend of mine created like a movie club, and so he had gone to get like some funding from our high school. He got like $4,000 where we could spend on a MacBook, a little camera, and like some mics and stuff like that. And every Wednesday we'd meet with my friends and we'd like shoot little skits and stuff. It was kind of like our after school like thing, right? All like a bunch of like movie nerds meeting up in high school and making short films and like little funny skits. And we did like the Harlem Shake back in the day, like, you know, we did a bunch of stuff like that. And then so like, that's like the first time I picked up a camera, I guess.
Yeah. And like, so like it was your friends were involved in it, your family was involved in it, your friends, so you were always like around it. So it seems like it was just like one of those like osmosis things, right? Where you're just like constantly around it. But what was like the next gear? Because obviously, you know, we're 18, we, you know, went through high school and all that kind of stuff and had the clubs, but what kept you coming back? Was there like a type of feeling, or was there like a
Yeah, so actually I was never like the best student. I was never a bad student, but never the best either. So I didn't have like the best grades and stuff like that. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my career or with my life. At some point I wanted to do voice acting. My grandfather was a comic book artist, and at some point I was like, okay, maybe I'll be a comic book artist. But when I graduated, I was like, Mom, I really don't like know what I'm gonna do. And she was like, well, what do you like? And I was like, well, I like watching movies. And she was like, why don't you try film school? And so I was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty smart. I'm really lucky to have like a very supportive family. I didn't grow up in a family that wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor or like make a bunch of money, whatever. Like, as long as I was happy and like could support myself. And so she signed me up, and I went to film school, and I guess that continued even deeper right into like cinematography and stuff like that. But the school I was in was more headed towards like really working in the movie industry. So like it was either to become like a producer or director or like script writer or stuff like that. And I realized that I did want to be in media, but I didn't want to be in the movie industry because if you want to try and make it as a director in cinema, like an actual like Hollywood and stuff like that, is near impossible. Like it's really, really hard. And I mean, some people do it, but I was like, I don't know if I have like the time and energy to want to put into pursuing that side of media. And so my mom actually worked for TV back in the day. I forgot to say about that. I was also linked to media in general. So she worked in broadcast for big TV channels in France. And she took me to the broadcast, like huge vans with all the screens that were inside. So I was also exposed to that really early on. And then I went to film school. It was really nice. I learned a lot about script writing, about sound design, about editing. At the time, I learned how to edit on Premiere Pro, but I quickly switched to Final Cut. We had like little classes where we had like a camera, and it was like 10 of us, and we'd try like shoot like little commercials and short films and stuff like that. And then basically your first year, you do like broad spectrum. And then your third year, that's when you specialize if you want to go into producing or script writing or sound design or anything like that. But I didn't do my third year because, again, I realized I didn't want to go into the movie industry, and then started doing like internships in TV channels that my mom like hooked me up with, right? I can't lie, she helped me a lot at the beginning. And then and so like then as like a professional, that was my first experience. I was doing mostly post-production for big TV channels in France. Because I'm from France, by the way.
Yeah. I picked up on that theme, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the strong French accent, but I will not put it on.
Hey, anytime you want it to come out, I absolutely love the French accent, and I feel like most this will appreciate that as, whatever they're driving or whatever. So, I mean, by all means, let it come out.
No, the French accent comes out when I'm like really tired and I'm looking for my words and stuff. But I like, again, because my parents were big movie lovers, they didn't want to watch me movies dubbed in French, which is the majority of movies in France. So unfortunately, you don't grow up watching movie in original version. It's like dubbed. But my parents were such like movie lovers that they like, when I was like, I think 6 or 7, they like, nope, you're going to watch it in English with French subtitles. So I was lucky, quite rare as a French person to learn English pretty early on. So I don't have a pretty strong French accent, but anyway, was working for a TV channel, doing post-production for some shows that were airing back in the day. And also I was like second camera when we went like on site to shoot like interviews and stuff for the shows that were gonna be broadcasted later on and stuff like that. Had like recordings, cassettes that I had to, they would like put me in an Uber, and I had to go like give the recording to like the huge like TF1 tower, which is like one of the biggest TV channels in France. So that they could put the broadcast on and stuff like that, a little bit old school. And that's how it started basically.
Yeah.
And then like,
that's super cool. I really appreciate that. Like, I feel like everyone has some type of help, at some point. Yeah. So for you, it was your mother. For others, it could be like, a mentor that brings them along, on certain gigs whenever they're younger too, and stuff like that. So like, I feel like everyone has that type of idea. I'm curious from the standpoint of film schools. I think it's for people that are just graduating, like, primary school, high school and stuff like that. It's like they have that decision of like, do they go into film school? Do they go, into like business school and then do film whenever they have free time? How did like film school help you? Like, what was your overall opinion? Was it worth it? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, actually. I think it just depends on the person, because I have lots of friends who did finish that school. And also, like, I'm not a very academic guy. And so the first few years in that school, we had a lot of like theory, which I wasn't a fan of. In terms of like practice, we had like, again, some classes where we'd meet up in a room, we'd have like one camera for like 12, 15 students, where we could like take turns, like looking at the settings and like, all that stuff. And we did have, my favorite class was movie analysis. So we would be like in a huge amphitheater, like a huge like auditorium. And like, there was like a huge like screen, and we'd watch like movie scenes from like masterpieces and movies, right? And like the teacher would have us like analyze the lighting and the intention with the music and the camera position and stuff like that. That was my favorite class, because like we'd really watch a whole scene and really like dismantle it bit by bit and like watch like everything. And so it taught me a lot about intention that comes behind lighting, sound design, music, camera angles for like a scene to kind of like show a specific type of emotion and like make the audience feel a certain way and stuff like that. So for me, those classes were really nice, but they were not like the majority of our classes. The majority of our classes, we had like exams and stuff to write down. And I know it's how school is supposed to be, but I guess I had this like kind of like rainbows and unicorns ideas of film school where we'd be like shooting every day, which wasn't the case, unfortunately. And so I think I was a little bit impatient as well. I was really young. I could have waited for my third year. And I think more practice came after that in the third and fourth year. I've always been kind of impatient, and I just wanted to get my hands on cameras, man. I just wanted to get in the work right away, and like all the theory and the academic side of things wasn't a huge thing for me. But funny enough, my little sister, who's 18 years younger than me, she's also following kind of my footsteps and going to film school as well. She's all my family were movie buffs. Like my brother went into like sports commentating. He's working for like sports channels in France. But my little sister, actually, she loves it. She loves the classes. She loves learning, going to school, the whole academic side of things. So I don't think like I would say like go to film school or don't go to film school, but I definitely would say like try it out. It is like quite of like the most for a career that is quite artistic, and you'll probably attest to that. There's no right specific direction. Like if you want to be a lawyer or you want to be a doctor, right? Like you go to law school or you go to med school. Mm-hmm. To work as a creative in media in general, there's so many avenues I feel you can go through. Like, and I went through the academic avenue at first, and realized actually I wanted to go through the practical, get my hands on like right away, and then like went into the working industry quite young, quite quickly. So yeah, but if you like movies and you like to shoot and be a creator. But also, it's a bit of a tricky question, because back then it was like 2014, right? That was like 12 years ago. So now I feel like my advice would be less relevant, because now I feel you could get away with not going to film school. And just like, there's so much, right? Like there's even like guys like, Bennett Looper, who have like courses and like, all these guys like, and then I started watching guys like Matt Como and like Peter McKinnon and all these guys, and like they sell courses and like online school and stuff like that. So I guess I should try stuff out, right?
Yeah. And I think everyone definitely has like a different path, right? I think it all depends on how you learn too. It's like some people, I think me and you are very similar in the sense of like, I'm not an academic person. Like I just kind of got by. Right.
Yeah.
We have like a saying like C's get degrees here. So,
okay.
But yeah, so it's like it's one of those things where if you rather learn in the field, like I'm the same way. I need to have like my hands on a camera or like in an environment where I can learn from others in order to fast track. Like I can't sit in a classroom and retain all the information and then do anything with it. I need to like do it right then and there. Like if I watch something really quick, I need to go and practice that. And that's just how I retain information. But everyone's different with that for sure.
Yeah. It's like just to quickly finish this off, like it's like I think now the school system is evolving a little bit, but it's still a bit old school in the way that, like, to me, there's not one way for a student to learn stuff, right? And I don't know how it is in the US, but in France, it's still pretty like classic, you know, you get your grades, you go to school, you go to class or whatever. But I feel like now there's so many different ways that you can learn things. And I feel like with like people being more in touch now with like ADHD and OCD and like trauma, and like everybody has different ways of learning. And I think how is it in the US? Like, is it evolving a little bit, the education system?
I'm so detached from it, to be honest. I have a few friends that are going through like ASU film school right now. So Arizona State University Film School. But everything you're describing still exists where, you know, the first couple of years, it's primarily learning theory. You're not necessarily touching a camera. You're sharing a camera amongst a class, you know, of 17, 18, whatever it is. So I don't think that necessarily that stuff's changed. And I still think there's a huge emphasis on grades and things like that. But it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I wish I could say more on it, but I'm not too
fair
sure.
enough. Yeah.
I'm so old now. You know what I mean?
To me, the future is like a class with maybe 10 to 12 students max, and like a teacher that really can adapt to each of the students, right? Because I get it. Like when you're a teacher and you have like 30, 34 students, you can't like individualize the way you're teaching these kids, right? You have to do like a broad spectrum kind of like way of teaching. But like, I think the future is like classes of 10, 12 kids, and the teacher can really get to learn the way that they process information. But anyway, we're veering away.
No, it's all good because like I didn't go to film school. So like I'm all self-taught. You mentioned.
Yeah, you learned by yourself?
Yeah. So I had one mentor that kind of brought me along and taught me the basics of, you know, making art as we do now. But for the most part, it was primarily like pop it on YouTube, listen to people like you mentioned, Peter McKinnon. You know, in the early days, this is going to date myself, you know, Casey Neistat, people like that, that really just forced, like I would watch what they did and then I try to implement it, right? Or I try to replicate it and put a little spin on it that's more my direction. So I don't have like the classical type way of like, I guess you could say, approaching a situation. I'm more of like a run and gun practical, like what do I have around me that I can use to tell it, which is fun. It gives me a different look for sure. But
DIY.
Yeah, DIY, literally. Yeah. Like, you know, this backdrop is all functional of stuff I actually use on a daily basis. You know, it's like stuff like that. So curious then. So, you know, we have all the experience with, you know, news organizations within France, you know, mom's helping you out with getting you introductions, but you're still working your face off. You know, you have to earn the opportunities and things like that. What was the pivot then, you know, to start Truth Films and then also to, you know, dive into this fitness realm of things?
Yeah, actually came like quite a few years later. I was working in TV because I took a huge break from like pursuing my career to travel. So basically at some point because I finished film school quite early, I was basically like 20 years old. I was working in TV. I had like not the best salary in the world, but I was making enough. Like I had an apartment and I was like, okay, is this my life now? I'm like 20. I have like a salary. I've got income. I've got like a stable apartment, but I haven't experienced anything. Right. I even stopped like being in a student. So I couldn't even like experience like doing, you know, student stuff, like going to parties and stuff like that. I was like right away thrown into the adult world. And so I actually like quit everything. I quit my job, left my apartment, saved money, and I moved to London from France. Yeah, my grandfather before passing away always told me you have to see the world, you have to travel, because he was like quite handicapped. He was like he couldn't like take planes and stuff like that. So I was like, okay. And so I moved to London, and I was just basically doing hospitality, man. I was like working in restaurants and bars and like retail as well. Like one of my first jobs in London was selling Timberlands, the boots.
Yes. Yeah.
And so over there, I did have a camera, and I was kind of like, so I did keep going with the media a little bit. I had a YouTube channel.
There you go. Out of curiosity, real quick, do you still own a pair of Timberlands, or were you so like sick of Timberlands that you had to take a little bit?
No. I mean, I have my pair of Tims. Like, okay, I have the yellow Tims, like classic.
You know the exact style that's the best style and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I think like those are the items of apparel that you like. Everyone should have like a nice pair of boots, right? Can be Tims, can be something else, but I do still have a pair of Tims, but. Yeah, after selling a bunch of them all the time, after some point, like you want to wear something else, but
for sure.
And in the store, like to work, actually, they didn't give us like the boots, right? Like you can't work in that all day. So they gave us like sneaker, like their sneaker line of Timberlands. But yeah, so I did small jobs there, and then after a year in London, I moved to Australia. A friend of mine.
You're moving all over the place. This is great. I love this.
Yeah. In total with France, I've lived in 7 countries. And so, I moved to Australia, did retail jobs, hospitality, I was vlogging basically for my YouTube channel. I was doing like a bit of fitness, lifestyle, travel stuff. I still have a couple of videos on that channel, but I haven't posted in years. But it was kind of a way for me to keep like shooting stuff, even though I was not making a living out of it. And then, I lived in Australia for 2 years, came back, big breakup. And actually that led me into what your question, which is how did I get into filming CrossFit fitness, all that stuff. So I was more into like fitness and bodybuilding in my own way of training before for like the first 8 years of training was more like, bodybuilding, was following a bunch of like fitness influencers. It was a big like David Lade and like all these Gymshark like early like OGs and stuff like that. And then after the breakup, I moved to Spain where a friend of mine was living, and he was like a functional fitness coach. He was not a CrossFit coach. He'll hate me for saying that if I did. He was a functional fitness coach, so more like Marcus Philly.
Okay.
Marcus Philly? Yeah. So like very like functional hybrid. Like he was like really, now it's like a huge trend, right? But he was one of the first to be really into that type of like hybrid training. But at the time, there was not many gyms where he could do that other than CrossFit gyms. And I was going through a breakup, like really going through it, like it was my first big breakup. We spent together 2 years in Australia. And then when we came back, she broke up with me. And so it was like, hey man, like I just signed up to like CrossFit. You should come and do a class. And I was like, nah, man, I don't want to do that. I didn't want to, back in the day, it was like the Forging Elite Fitness kind of like branding, like a bit intimidating, for those who are not in it. And I'd see my friend like, yeah, it's so nice. Like you just die and then you throw up at the end. I was like, I don't want to be doing that, which is kind of like the branding that they restarted like beginning of last year, right? Like trying to revamp like the whole origin of like, pushing yourself hard. And I don't mind that. I think it's pretty cool. But he ended up like dragging my ass to a class. I think it was 10 kettlebell swings, 100 meter run. And then it was 20, 200, 30, 300, 40, 400. And I was just like dying, and like everybody was beating me in the class. But it was like my first one, got my ass kicked. And then I was like, oh, wow, like this is CrossFit. And then I think like a lot of us, man, we came home and he was like, hey, do you want to watch Redeemed and the Dominant? Right. So Buttery Bros, Fittest on Earth movies, and we started watching the Froning one, and then the Fittest on Earth, and the Redeemed and the Dominant, and then like, and I was like, holy fuck, like this sport looks so fun to shoot. Like, because at first I knew coming back from Australia, I wanted to really start my career as a freelance videographer, but I didn't really know what I wanted to shoot. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Like weddings, bakeries, corporate, like there's so much you can do as a freelance videographer, right? So many avenues you can go into. And some guys actually do a bit of everything, which like, fair enough, you know, but I was like, I kind of like fell in love with like these documentaries. And I was like, okay, like there's so much diversity within CrossFit and functional fitness in general that like you can't get bored. Like it you know, it has to bring out some type of creativity in you to like shoot that sport because it's just forever changing, right? And unknown and unknowable. And I was like, and it started with me just shooting my friend Quentin at the CrossFit gym, open gym, doing like some workouts that he was like whipping up, and shooting that. And then I moved to the Netherlands. So I stayed a year in Spain and moved to the Netherlands. And then in my second CrossFit gym in the Netherlands, started filming like some of the members as well. You know, I think we all started that way, right? Like I went to the most shredded guy in the gym and I was like, hey man, can I do like a video for free? His name was Sonder, by the way. He was like a great dude. And he was like, yeah, sure, man, like free video, right?
Yeah.
And then it went up to just like DMing the fittest people in my country, right? So Linda Keesman, who went to the games once, and she's like a really growing name in CrossFit from the Netherlands. She's now a signed pro at WFP. She was a challenger all year last year, earned her points, and got to be signed with WFP. So and she was like one of the first to I would like DM and like some other people as well, like pretty fit people in the Netherlands, and be like, hey guys, would you mind if I like make some reels for you guys? Come up to the gym and like I'll just give them to you for free. And that's kind of how I started like growing, and then volunteering for my first semifinals, which was back in 2022 Lowlands Throwdown, which was at the same time as Strength and Depth in Europe. We had two at that year. And I volunteered there. That's how I met Brian Friend and Patrick Clark. And, you know, I got to shoot like the big European boys, right? Like Lazar Dukic and Sarah Sigmundsdottir and like all the, you know, Adrian Monweiler and all the guys that were like really, really big in Europe. And that got me a little bit of a following as well. And it just kept growing. I think after like Lowlands, that's when I was like, okay, because at the time in the Netherlands, I was doing a bit of hospitality work just to pay the rent, right? Like kind of had to do that at first. And then after Lowlands, like, okay, let's try to go all in. And I basically started showing my face to every single local comps. Like, you know, volunteering, sometimes getting like my travel paid for, sometimes just the hotel. Even like showing up as a spectator to other competitions I wasn't hired by, and just like shooting from the sides. And again, like working my way up. Then after a while, I got hired by Puma. And then I shot for some of the Puma athletes back in Europe, which were at the time Victor Hoffer and Claudia Glock, the French people. But also I went to a WIT event in London where Jesse and Chandler were there, and like McGonigal and Joshua Amala and like all these guys. And that was my first big thing, was like being hired by Puma.
Going back to all the different competitions, this is really important, and I really want to hit on this, is the idea. You hit on a couple different things. One is like the idea of like free to fee, right? So just throwing yourself into the environment, whatever it is, like it doesn't have to be fitness, doesn't have to be CrossFit, but really anything that you do, like having that idea of, I'm just going to give myself the most chances for, you know, at bats or whatever you want to call it, where you're putting yourself out there, you're networking, you're doing all of those types of things. So when you're going through that process, you mentioned that you were also working in hospitality to make that work. Can you speak a little bit, like, can you dive a little bit more into that? Like, why did you make that sacrifice? Because I'm sure you were probably, you know, late nights, early mornings type scenario. Like, how did you make that work? And like, how was that valuable for your development moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I think just in general, having to go through I'm saying this like it's a hardship. Like I was fine. So I had a roof over my head, like was living really fine in the Netherlands and everything. But yeah, hospitality can be rough sometimes, late shifts, like you were saying, and like, yeah, taking out the trash and serving rude customers and like stuff like that. And like, again, like long hours with very small breaks. Anyone who works in hospitality can attest. And also in Europe, especially in the Netherlands where I was working, like we don't get tips. Like we don't get tips as a mandatory thing like in the US. So, it's hospitality in Europe is a bit different, but I think it taught me like hard work, right? And nothing is given. And even though I grew up with a quite wealthy family, like if I had any money problem, my mom could always help me out. Like my mom's pretty wealthy, but I always wanted to make it on my own, right? So I did have like lots of periods where my mom helped me out financially or like to get my internships when I was younger, like I telling you earlier. And like, I'm always grateful for all the help that my family is giving me. But when I was a kid, because my family was wealthy, everyone was always expecting for me to do nothing with my life because I could always rely on my family's money, which kind of like did the opposite of maybe what they were expecting, which like gave me hunger to make my own money and to make it on my own. And so even though I knew I could like with one phone call ask money to my mom so I could like go full-time videography right away, right? And not have to do small jobs and stuff like that. My pride and like me wanting to make it and like make my own living. I was like, nah. And so I was working, hospitality, just like paying my rent like that, doing long hours. And I was basically doing at that time, like 9 to 5 and 5 to 9, that grind. Yeah. So 9 to 5 was like, obviously it was not exactly 9 in the morning to 5 because it was hospitality. So it was just like different hours, but you get the gist. So it was like, my 9 to 5 was hospitality work. And then as soon as I was done with that and I had like off days, I would go to the gym in Amsterdam, shoot these athletes, try to grow, going like volunteering, everything I was just saying, talking about. And so, it taught me that nothing is given and that no matter what industry you're in, you have to go through that grind. I feel like you have to earn it, right? Like, I think, money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy you, like a career in like video making in our industry, right? Like, it can buy you gear, but if you don't know how to use it, then there's no point.
Absolutely.
You can have connections, but if you're a shitty videographer or photographer, also doesn't help. Also, I feel like you have to be a good person, right? Like for example, when we work with creators at WFP, we also look at the human side of things, right? Like you can be the best in the world at what you do, but if you're an asshole, like it's not going to work, right? Yes. And I think it's all these components and working on all these sides of myself that help me a lot to grow as a creator. So like, hard work within hospitality, right? But also being social and being kind and being patient and like, because you have to market yourself, right? You don't like if you don't work for a company, like you're your own company and you have to create a branding around yourself and market yourself, right? So I had to learn how to make connections and just go shake hands at events and like sell myself and stuff like that. And that was pretty cool to learn that as well.
I'm going because like at some point, I'm sure, there was a late night or like you woke up and you're like, I'm not feeling this today. Like, what was that thing that kept pulling you in or even just pushing you out to go and continue
full time? Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. So maybe I like veered away, but I see what your question is right now. So the thing that pushed me is that, well, first of all, I started to get like people hiring me on the side of my job, right? Like in hospitality. So I started making a little bit of money with that. And so because I couldn't like keep doing it like cash in hand, I had to create my own company, which became Truth Films. And so I started getting taxed on that. And like, it became a little bit more like serious, like, oh shit, like now I've got like my VAT number and like all that stuff, or tax number. I don't know how it's called in the US. You guys got VAT?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, taxes and stuff like that. So that became a little bit more serious. And then also I was noticing that like, the 9 to 5 and like 5 to 9, like, like one or the other is starting to like overlap, and like all the shifts I was taking at work in the bar and like was like really making me really tired. And also like not allowing me to fully focus on videography. And so what pushed me was like, starting to see the trust in some clients that I was making with video making, like Puma, right? And starting to work at like bigger events in the Netherlands, and people like, saying like, hey man, like you're really good. Like my friends at the gym where I was shooting, they became good friends, the athletes there. And they were telling me like, man, like I see your growth. Like, all the coaches in the gym, like they became my family basically. And they were saying like, every time I was pulling out like a new reel, they were like, oh man, like you're really getting better. And I was like, okay, there's something to do with this, right? It's not like, oh, your content is really bad, nobody's saying, but you're a bit delusional, like fuck it, let's try. And I mean, that could be a way to go full time. But so I was like, you know what, let's try it out. I had saved up some money from my video making gig, sold an old camera of mine, and I was still doing like a few shifts, but barely. And I was like, okay, let's really try to dive in and go full in. I was also lucky to live with like a roommate in my apartment, so my rent was not like sky high, right? And that's when I was like, okay, let's do this. And then I think if I can give an advice to someone that like would like to go full time, but that really is on the verge, but is like, because it's super scary, right? One of my friend who actually works with us at WFP Valentin, he's just made that step. He was working a full-time job, and so we're texting right now. He's asking me like, I'm telling him like, it's going to be all right, but you're going to have to grind for it, but it's not easy. But on the other hand, though, it pushes you so much further than if you have the safety of another job. Because if you have the safety, you're like, you don't have to push yourself that hard. Like, or it's easier to do so because you've got that safety net of like a safe job on the side. And so I feel like if I hadn't gone full time in terms of like improvement of my craft, I feel like it would have taken like way more years, right? Whereas like when I went full time, I was like, okay, this is it. This is how I'm putting food on the table. So I better get better at this thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you think about your development, right? Where it's like when you're working, you have that late shift or that early shift or whatever it is, it's like that's time that you could be using elsewhere to get more development. And then if you're constantly, and that's going to affect like your mood, that's going to affect all those things. And you put it in a great way where it's like, you got to understand your finances, where you're at as far as that goes. It's like, not everyone can you shouldn't make the leap, just make the leap. You got to make the leap with a certain expectation.
You should. Yeah, you should have like, I don't want to say like, let's go ahead and do it, like whatever. Like I would strongly advise having like some savings and a safety net, or if you've got a family member that can back you up, or ways to making money like on the side, like a little bit still, or stuff like that. Like I wouldn't go just blind with like $0 in your pocket and like try this thing. You got to make a living, right? Some people actually still live at their folks, right? So that helps as well. Like we all have different situations. But definitely have a safety net. Like don't go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't like buy your first camera and they're like, hey, I'm going full time in this. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Back it up.
The fight or flight thing is very real, and like it just pushes you to grind, right? Like my friends at my gym in Amsterdam can attest to that. I was arriving at the gym like pretty early in the morning, around 9 or 10, and I would stay until the gym would close at like 10 p.m. And all day I would shoot my friends like training, and then I would edit, shoot, train, like, and then like I would be the last one when the gym would be closing, because there was a nice co-working space. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like on the laptop. I was like, okay, like, and I was taking the train, going back home, going back, and and I think I had the most growth in my craft and my content, like from beginner to like pro in those first 2 years. Cause like, I was like, all right, better get good at this thing.
Yeah, seriously. So we hit on we started talking about like competitions and putting yourself in those environments too in the competition side. So French Throwdown, things like that. How did the WFP opportunity come about? And what's the whole experience been like? Because you're there from like day zero into now you guys are entering into year 2 of
yeah. So WFP didn't come until like February 2025. So a year and a half ago now, which is crazy. I feel like I've just started last week. But before that, it was like a lot. It wasn't right away WFP, right? Like it was before that. I financed my first trip to Wadapalooza back in January 2023. I had like 100 business cards with my with written Truth Films on it with my first logo, and then on the back a QR code that would lead to my Instagram. And actually, Sydney Wells, if she ever watches this, can attest to this. Like, I gave her my card because I had some shots of her like competing, and I was like, "Hey, that's my card. You can follow me on Instagram. I'll send you a reel." And I was like, in 2023 Wadapalooza, there was probably like hundreds of my business cards, like because I put them on like on the at the vendors, like at the booths, like everywhere. I think I gave one to Bergeron as well at the time. Like, so lots of like just showing up, financing my own trips to competitions. And then I was also, I have to say, I always want to mention them. I was hired by Krieger Training, which is the programming of Christian Holte, OG CrossFit Games athlete, right? And they send a bunch of teams every year at the games, and they're just like absolute beasts. And that's when I moved to one of the other countries I lived in, which is Norway. So I worked for Krieger Training in Norway and Christian Holte for like 3 or 4 months, something like that. And they brought me to my first games to shoot like 5 of their teams at the games in 2023. The last year in Madison. So I'm like lucky that I had to experience that last year in Madison. So there was a lot before WFP came along. So I just, so I don't want to pretend like it just happened like that, But throughout those years, I have to mention like a person that's been a pivotal role into me joining WFP, which is my friend and now colleague Hanu Pajari, who is the media director at WFP. I had met him and that's why I thought it was important to say that I was going to all these competitions, because I went to Oslo Throwdown in Norway, and he was emceeing back in the day, and then I went to, so he's from Finland, and I went to Finnish competition, Turku Tuomiopäivä back then, which is programmed by Johnny Koski. It's him, and actually the woman that like owns the competition in Finland is now one of my colleagues at WFP, because Hanu, basically what he did is like bring on the people who he thought were the best in the game, in media, and in like competition and all that stuff in Europe, right? He was approached first, and like was one of the first to be hired by WFP, by Jackson and Isabella Terry. And because I've met him like so many times at competitions, we became good friends. And so when Jackson and Bella were looking for someone in media that was doing really well, that was like quite good and everything, he recommended me to them. So I will always and can only thank him for my role now at WFP. Of course, I've worked hard.
I was going to say, a little bit, but let's like
I mean, of course he wouldn't have. Yeah, he wouldn't have recommended me if he didn't think I was like good for it, right? So like I worked really, really hard to get to where I am. So for sure, it wasn't just luck and like just him, but he was the one who recommended me. And also have to give props to I always want to remember the people that really like gave me big steps in a game. And those among like Hanu and Krieger Training, Kristen Holte, was also PC and Brian from Be Friendly. Some of the first like biggest gigs I had at like Rogue and Wadapalooza and stuff like that was with Be Friendly. So Brian and PC were also huge pivotal people in like getting me into these things, right? But yeah, and so February 2025, sorry. It was initially for another role within the company, still in media, but another role, which I won't mention. But then that got given to someone else, but they were still looking for someone that would really guide and lead the photo and video side of things. So I'm not media director. I am lead photo and video. So like basically I work with the content creators closely with the content on social media, YouTube, Instagram, and all that stuff. And then Hanu, who is our media director, basically is like all media. So the MCs, the DJs, the broadcast, like media is so much more than the photographer. Like every time you talk about a competition, you say like media team, but actually in the true, real professional terms of it, media team is way more than just the photographers and videographers. But I know it's easier. It's easier to say the media team when you talk about creators, right?
It's like the classic whenever like if you do both, right? If you're video and photo, and then someone just calls you a photographer, you're like, wait, hold on, like I'm doing this. Or it's like when that other instance of like whenever you have your just video camera and they're like, hey, can you take a photo of us? And you're like,
yeah.
Then you just like hit record and then grab a still and send it to them.
Yeah, no, because I at first when I wanted to promote my team for the first like WFP events, I was putting a media team, and Hanu was like, no, it's photo and video team. It's less sexy to say media team, but media team is like I said, like even Lauren Smith commentating on the sideline, like this is all media. Like even like Katrin and Annie Thor's daughter that were doing like the commentary, that's also a media team. So yeah, and that's how I got brought on to WFP basically. If that was your question, like maybe I veered away.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to a larger theme of like, and you already mentioned like being a good person, working your face off, working hard, and then also just introducing yourself to people and making connections instead of just being a robot when you go to, whether it be competitions, when you're in your local affiliate, in your gyms, when you're working with athletes. It's like, take the time to really, make genuine connections so that when opportunities do arise, yes, you have your great work, but to your point, you also want to, if you're part of a team, they want someone that they can like relate to, has a good personality, someone that can further everyone. And like, speaking to like your leadership, like be able to be a good leader, right? So like if you're a person that's front facing, constantly introducing yourself, being a good person, working your face off, all of those things are going to come around. Yeah.
The same, I think it's like very complete. Like you have to be complete as a creator, like, cause also you can be the nicest guy in the world. If your content is not good enough, it's also not good. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to be kind, patient, hardworking, but you also have to, have put in the work and like be good at your craft, right? And like have your own thing. And also, I like that you said genuine connections, because I feel like also a lot of people can be opportunists and like, have like an agenda when they approach someone. Whereas, of course, there's always a connection, like work connection agenda a little bit. But the way I always approach people is, first of all, in a human way. Like, same with the athletes that I've worked with, same with everyone. It's always like you said, making that genuine connection, and like, some colleagues become friends. So, or at first start as friends like Hanu, and then it leads to, whereas I think if Hanu saw that I would be like approaching him, like at first in a very like, interested way, like just like career focused and stuff like that, maybe also we wouldn't have built that like relationship that like led him to recommend me. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're approaching someone, like everyone knows, like, to a certain point, like you probably have like some type of agenda or something or an ask that you're eventually gonna come back around. But like, you should never lead with like a direct ask, right? It should be like, wait, let me feel this situation out. Let me, show who I am as a person, my personality come out, and then also gather some information and show that you genuinely care about the individual on the other side. Because go ahead.
No, sorry. It just reminded me, like, also the other way around, like if it's also good for the creator to also kind of feel out if they're going to enjoy working with the person as well. Right. Like, so if you're realizing through your first conversations with the client that they're going to be difficult, and I think Bennett talked about this in one of his reels, then you're not going to want to work with them as well. So I think getting to a certain extent, right, getting along with the future client or just person in general is also good, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it's like, you know, while you're being in a way interviewed, you know, as a creator or whatever position you're going for, you should also be interviewing the other person too, and to see if that is a good fit. Because, you know, they're like in life, you know, there's certain people that have certain personalities and other people that have different personalities. So it's like, you have to know what you prefer to work with. So if, you know, like for myself personally, like I prefer people that are very direct, because that's just like, I don't know why, it's like my coaches growing up or something like that. So like, if I know that I'm attracted to that style, like I'm going to always skew and kind of head towards people that kind of present that personality. Everyone's different. So you just got to know your style too, as well.
Yeah, 100%. Let me just fix my light because it's getting pretty dark.
No problem. Yeah, as the night progresses.
Exactly.
I'm surprised. So I have a window that's off to my right here. And as the sun moves further and further up in the sky here in Arizona, I feel like I'm going to get some reflection as well. So we'll see. No, it's all good. So with WFP, like, how have you liked the opportunity? You know, can you just speak about like the experience so far? Like what you've enjoyed about it? Maybe some lessons and takeaways. Thinking about how we can help other, you know, people that do what we do, you know, and create and things like that. As far as like lessons that you've learned or things that you've kind of taken with you, you know, as in season 2.
Yeah. Something that I've learned is teamwork, because that was like a big shift for me, as like going from basically being a one-man show, which is most of like, you know, you and all of our creator friends do, to working with a team was like a big thing for me. Like, for example, Indianapolis, first tour stop last year. Like I wanted to post as well. I wanted to post like photos that I would be taking. I would, you know, like it's kind of like this ego thing where it's like you want to have like, it's a bit, it's very egotistical, right? But you want to have like praise as well. And what I've learned is like, no, like my role as lead is to make my team shine. And it's not about me, right? Like I don't need to be in front of the camera. I don't need to, you know, post my stuff. So like, as people maybe have noticed, like throughout the tour stops, I was posting less and less. And like for the finals, I posted like 3 pictures like a month after that I've taken like spontaneously during a few of the events, right? So one big thing was like, going from that solo thing, like for myself, getting all the praise from the photos and the cool reels that I was posting and people saying like, oh my God, this looks cool or whatever, to actually like, if I'm doing my job well, it's my team who will get the praise, right? And it's the content we're putting out that's going to get the praise. And that's my job, right? But at first I was like, it was kind of like navigating that kind of like new role, which was really different, which is like going a little bit more from a leading side of things, like from a creative side of things to a leading side of things. So that was like,
I saw that in Mesa, you know, because I wasn't at Indianapolis, but I saw you in Mesa just walking around and like checking in on people. You were saying hi to like all the outside media people and stuff like that. So I can somewhat relate on a little bit lower of a scale in the sense of just like overall participation. But Desert City Classic here in Arizona, I run the media there. And the first year that I did it, I was out there filming, same type of deal, right? I was out there filming, I was out there creating constantly, posting things up. This past year, I took a step back and I more or less see the same thing you're describing is like you put people in places to succeed and trust that they're going to do a good job. You give them the certain instructions and the structure, but you allow them to create something from that. And this year was so much better because, you know, 2 years ago, I was running around like crazy, probably didn't sleep at all, was doing all that kind of stuff. This past year, because I freed that time up that I was ordinarily like filming and stuff like that, I freed up that time. I was able to think more critically about, okay, you know, we have deliverables for these sponsors, you know, we have these athletes going at this certain time. Like I was able to add more structure and more creativity and then allowing others to, you know, take it with them.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was like a big thing. And also I guess the hardest, and I'll talk about the good stuff. But the hardest part as well was that I was, and I still am in some competitions. Like I still do. So I'm still on an invoicing system, and I'm still like not a full on like employee per se. So I can still do other gigs, right? Which is really nice. So I still do it sometimes, but going from like being one of like you guys and like us, like as content creators, to now being the leader of creators was rough, because I know most of the leaders that most of the creators that I work with now. So it's like going from being like elbow to elbow, like friends. And I mean, I'm still friends with some of them, like this is not the point, but that was the hardest part, is like going into a leadership role when I know a lot of these guys personally from before. Because it's really hard to go from being friends with these guys and now having to guide them as a lead, and kind of like taking on that more, leading role, right? It's not easy to say like, hey, can you go and do this? And can you do that? And whatever. When like 6 months before I was hired at WFP, I was like on the sideline next to these guys working as like kind of like peers, kind of. Right. Even though I still consider my team my peers, right? I don't want to say that I'm like above them or anything else, but that was challenging. I've learned through each tour stop, like, okay, sometimes you got to stand your ground. You have to be less of a friend, right? And be a little bit more like direct in the things that you expect, because again, like there's no I in teams, right? Like we all have to work together in the service of great media for WFP. And so that was like really hard. Yeah. Going from like solo to leading, and going from being among the solos to leading them was like the hardest part. And I think like now I'm slowly getting the gist of it, and also getting like them to understand that in that weekend, I'm not like a content creator working like on the side. I'm like the lead, right? And so just learning how to communicate things in a different way, and like that dynamic and really new type of relationship with these guys that I already knew before. And then the cool stuff like
develop that. Like, where did you go to develop that? Like, was it were there certain people that you could lean on to have conversations with? Was there like certain books, or you know what I mean? Like, is anything that like stood out that really helped you?
Yeah, no, so I didn't read any books or anything, but I guess like, to be honest, man, like the biggest mentor through all of this has been Hanu. He's just, because he's worked with teams before, he's worked for broadcasts, so like some of the biggest events in Europe. He was like, he's been in like CrossFit media for like 12 years. So Hanu, even though he's like from Finland and he's like kind of like low-key kind of guy, he's been in the business for a long time. Like he's done a lot of like OG CrossFit events and like conferences and stuff like that. And he's been in broadcast for a long time. And so he's got much more experience with like being a lead and being part of the team than I was. And so, yeah, man, he's always the one to tell me like, it's okay, dude. Like, just like you have to try and like talk to that way to them, or you have to try and this, and like always also question yourself and your leadership, like constantly question that. Don't never take like something for granted, because like sometimes if one of my team members has done a mistake, there's a good chance that it's because I haven't been clear enough in my communication to what I wanted, right? And it shouldn't be like, hey, why did you do that? It's first like, what have I done in my communication that could have, created that issue? Because it's, if you're a good leader and you explain things well and you do good prep work and like you become better and better, right? The less your team does mistakes, right? And so he's taught me that. He's taught me to just question yourself, like also be kind with yourself, take time to understand the ropes and how you communicate in that leadership role. And like, yeah, he's been my biggest mentor in that way.
I'm glad you have him too. Like that's a great, yeah. It's that sense of like just taking ownership. Like everything is my fault. Like, because I could have done this or done that in order to put that person in a better place so that they're able to act.
And of course, like, yeah, sometimes people do make mistakes and it's not my fault. And I have communicated stuff like pretty early.
their spare battery or like, another SD card. Yeah, that kind of falls.
But I think in general, in any industry, as in a leadership role, if your team is, if there's mistakes being done, you should first look at yourself and like your own leadership and how you run the team. Cause like oftentimes it can come from like something you missed or something you didn't say right or whatever,
Yeah.
And then like WFP in general, my experience, because you were asking that, I'm so lucky. And in that way, like, okay, I worked hard to be in that position, right? And I was hired by them and like, I'm grateful to be with them, but I'm so lucky to be working within this company. Cause like literally every single executive, people working in there, like Jackson Terry, like Ryan Husband, Hanu, Mary, like PC, Brian, Chad, like every single person working on that team is like, and we've grown together as well. It's pretty cool because a lot of us kind of like arrived pretty early on in the creation of WFP as well. So we all grow and learn from each tour stop together and become stronger and like help each other and like learn how each communicates in what way. And like now we kind of know all of our dynamics. And like there hasn't been a moment for the past year and a half where I've been like, oh my God, like my boss is annoying me, or oh my God, like, yeah, of course, nah. There's been some frustrations, and that comes from just a new company being built, right? Like you make mistakes and it creates like stressful situations, and especially like being put on the spotlight. And like can't lie, like we've had a lot of people also not being huge fans of WFP in the industry when we started as well. So getting that kind of negative spotlight as well, and kind of like be like, okay, it's normal. We're new in there. We're going to get some hate. We're going to get some, naysayers and stuff like that. We just got to keep our head down and like providing the best work we can in the team. So that was a big challenge, but like otherwise, man, like I feel like we're pulling off some pretty cool events. Like we've made some mistakes, but again, we're very open-minded and we listen to all the feedback. We don't apply 100% of the feedback, but we do listen. And that's great, man. Like I couldn't ask to work for a better company, to be honest.
Yeah, no. And especially when you're starting something from scratch and brand new, like there's going to be those growing pains, the minor adjustments they have to make, the tweaks you have to make, and knowing that you're on a, 3 to 5 year journey, or I don't want to speak for WFP. They might be on a shorter timeline, but I look at myself like from a development standpoint of like, hey, like I'm on a 3 to 5 year journey here. Like, how do I get better from today than I will in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, how do I reach that next echelon, that next level, so to speak? And realizing that it's a day by day process. It's not having like short term fixes doesn't solve it, right? So it's like that classic like whack-a-mole. I don't know if you guys have whack-a-mole, but no, it's like an arcade game, where you hit and
whack-a-mole. Yes,
whack-a-mole. Yeah. So like you can knock one down, but then invariably one pops up. So it's like instead of having that short-term fix, like I'd much rather have the long-term fix where it's like, all right, let's solve a big problem that's happening and then move forward. So yeah.
And within the company, we have meetings every single week, and every meeting is like, okay, of course, there's like updating with what's been going on and everything, and like prepping stuff and schedule out past the details. But it's also a lot of like, how can we improve that? How can we improve communication on this? How can we make this faster or smoother? Like, like constantly growing within the team. Everybody's always questioning how we can do better. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the growth mindset, right? So to speak. But
yeah.
And then I know documentaries coming out on YouTube, right? I don't know the exact date. I apologize, but is it?
I think we've posted it on Instagram a couple of days ago. It's gonna come out, if I'm not mistaken, on the 31st. So in a couple of days. Yeah.
So by the time this goes out, it would have already come out. But
yeah, probably. I don't know when you're gonna post this one.
This will be on Thursday this week. So
okay, awesome. Yeah, it's so we have like different platforms, and like so we first did a documentary that's more around teams that was created by our junior editor Valentin, who's been working internally with us and at events. So that was pretty cool, just to promote like what we want to do with the teams this year and like the team division. Then one that I edited, which was kind of like the birth of the pro card, right? Like the new pro card, like that whole system and like the opportunity that it gives to athletes to make a living and all that stuff, which was what less geared towards like the big names, like at the top 10, right? And then Heber and Mars with the Buttery Bros, who we've been working with on a series called Unbreakable for the past year, have now created this like longer piece, which is also an Unbreakable episode. And it's which is more in the line of like, you know, their stuff, like what you've seen from them in CrossFit and stuff like that, like full on WFP documentary and like the big names and all that stuff. I've already seen a preview. It's pretty freaking awesome, and I can't wait for everybody to see it. And it was really nice as well to discover like working with them, like going from like, if we have to go full circle, man, like it can't get better than that. Cause like going from watching the Redeemed and Dominant in Spain on my small TV and saying to my friend Quentin, like, hey, that's what I want to do. And seeing Mars run next to Matt Fraser, going from that to like a couple months ago being in Belgium with Heber, going to shoot some of our signed pros for like Unbreakable episodes that we've done, and just like getting direct feedback from Heber, like sitting next to a computer and him giving me like advice on how to improve as like a documentary videographer. Oh man, like this is so free. It's so awesome. And I'm so grateful that like Buttery Bros got to work with us and keep working with us at WFP, because I'm also learning so much from them. And like at the finals, we worked with Chadrick and Carlos, who were in their team, Steph as well, doing some of the editing, and we were all kind of like in the same media room and working together, and that's been freaking awesome. But yeah, the documentary is going to be sick. Tune in.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, for everyone that's listening to this, definitely knows every single one of those names. I don't know if you know this. True. Steph actually goes to CrossFit Magda, the CrossFit gym that I go to here in Arizona. So
yeah, sick. We went to that in Mesa. We went to that gym.
Yeah.
Really cool gym. Like it's a huge place.
It is.
So much space. How many members do you guys have?
It's a great question. I don't know the exact number. I feel like it's got north of like 300. I don't know though. But it was great, man. Like you guys have a great thing going on over there. No, I appreciate it. We just did, we had quarterfinals happening this weekend. So I think we had like 34 out of like 50 athletes like qualify. It was nuts. So I was there. That's where I spent the last couple days.
Yeah, I bet. Are you doing the quarterfinal? Like, have you done the open, or are you?
So I did the first workout in the open. And then I was traveling on the second. I was in Miami for Wadapalooza on the third. So yeah, again, this is like, you know, we're always very critical of ourselves as creators. I could have done it, right? I could have, but I didn't. And then it was funny. Yesterday, actually, I was filming some quarterfinals, and I was like, all right, you know what? Because I've filmed these people all weekend, I need to feel what they're feeling. I'm like, I'm going to do one of the quarterfinals workouts. So I put on a whiteboard and I wrote it down, and I put down, you know, I had to go vote basically on what workout. And they all picked the hardest workout. And I was like, it's like, guys, I thought you were my friends here. Like, what are we doing? But it was the muscle up hang squat clean workout.
Yeah.
So I did do that one. Awesome. It knocked me out for a little bit afterwards. I then went to a social gathering, like a crawfish boil, which if you never had crawfish before, it's an interesting experience in itself.
Okay.
But the whole time I would just like, I would like try to talk, and like nothing would come out just because I was just so like, you know.
Yeah.
How you get like after a big workout, you're just like,
yeah. Hell yeah.
I was like,
I get brain fog. Don't ask me to do any type of like critical thinking after working out. I'm just like scrolling on my phone. Like, yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, okay, inspiration. Let me say that. So you're still working probably.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
What about you? Are you into like, what's your are you into like the whole CrossFit functional fitness thing? Are you more of the bodybuilding, like you were saying earlier? Like, what's your?
I have to be honest, I don't have a real name for it. I guess like the trendy word would be hybrid, but I don't even run that much to be called a hybrid athlete or anything. But yeah, so I did like bodybuilding, fitness. Like I was quite chubby when I was younger. I had a big like weight loss journey. I lost like over 50 pounds when I was 20 years old. And then, yeah, did fitness for 8 years, then started CrossFit with my friend in Spain. Did that for a couple of years, but I've got so for people who are familiar with it, I have degenerative disc. So basically, it's usually happens between men over 50. Just like basically like overuse of your disc in between your vertebrae on your spine. And I think the mix of like the work that we do, like being standing up in weird positions for a long amount of times and also sitting down, which is terrible for your back for long periods of time, plus working out and like lifting pretty heavy, plus maybe a genetic predisposition to have it. Like I just, one of my discs is just gone. Right. And so I kind of have like have to adapt that my training for that. And so I did like 6 months where I just did weightlifting to improve my weightlifting. Now, to be honest, like I do a mix of hybrid racing. I just did my first hybrid race a month ago, which was pretty cool. But there's some like back squat I don't do as much because of my back. So I do more front squats, do some gymnastics, but I don't follow a CrossFit programming or a High Rocks programming or whatever. To be honest, I show up to the gym 5 to 6 times a week, sometimes 4. Sometimes I join class and do workouts with my friends. And sometimes I come open gym and do some mother freaking benching, you know?
There you go.
Like, it's just a mix of everything. And I'm just having so much fun. And I'm grateful that I'm being able to move the way that I'm moving at 30, almost 31 years old in a couple of months. So yeah, just trying to stay fit, strong, and healthy and hang out with my friends, you know?
That sounds like a great plan. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap here. Obviously, appreciate your time. This is a great conversation. We'll have to have you back.
Hell yeah.
But yeah,
thanks for having me on, man. Like, I really appreciate it. I think it's really cool what we're doing with the podcast. Obviously, you might know I'm doing the same, but like I've been so busy that I haven't had the chance to continue as much. Like,
we'll have to do
it's like
cross promotional thing where we have like a mega cast or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we should do like a Hard Drive Studios capture the reps mix featuring or whatever. But yeah, man, like as you might know, it's hard to like find people who are ready to come on and then like match schedules and then and of course I did it like a few episodes in the beginning and then after you get caught up and like I hope for you that you're gonna keep going with these episodes. I think it's freaking awesome. But yeah, it's I love the backdrop in the studio that you have, which is not, you know, I never had the luxury of having that, so it's pretty cool when you get them live, right? It looks really professional.
Oh yeah, like in person, like, you know, we'll have to figure out next time you're in the States or something like that, but yeah, like in person is like 10 out of 10. It's the way to go, just because you kind of feed off each other's energy. I feel like we did a pretty good job of, but it's a lot easier when you're in person for sure.
Talking about in person, are you going to try and come out and at some of our events, maybe the one in Indianapolis or the finals?
So I do have a baby boy on the way here.
No way! Congratulations! Yeah. Oh my God! I think I saw a post about that. Yeah.
So so like you want to talk about like how you know, life kind of changes up for you and stuff like that. Like now I'm a lot more intentional with my trips now. So by all means, you know, if we get a good crew together, like I feel like that would be an awesome trip to make for sure. So
yeah. Man, like congrats. Like, yeah, being a dad probably shifts your priorities, right? And like how you choose which gigs you're doing. And
exactly. Like it's funny, like the next 2 months, I'm not traveling at all. And it's the first time I've not traveled for that long in probably, years. Right.
Yeah.
But I front loaded all my travel. So like I spent like almost like a whole month on the road before this. So I'm like, I got to get out there. I got to film everything. So then I have like editing that I can do these next 2 months while I'm home. You know? So
I gotta ask Justin Tamane how it shifted for him when he got his daughter, because that must be a big shift. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to have him on. I'd love to have like a little dad talk. Like that would be great.
Yeah,
I haven't
Justin.
had
He's,
dad talk yet.
Canadian guy, just sweetest guy ever. Have him on. He'll be happy to come on, I'm sure.
Yeah, right on. Cool.
All right, dude. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate
See you
you.
guys later.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Capture the Reps podcast. If you're a fitness creative and you found this episode helpful, please share this with a fellow creative and keep creating, keep learning, and keep capturing those reps. We'll see you next time.